It's been a little under a month since the official launch of the classic WoW hardcore servers, and thousands of journeys have already ended. According to capture statistics, we've seen that the majority of characters don't even make it past level 10. Now, this might make you think that you need to be some sort of super gifted expert to enjoy the game, but I'm here to tell you that you can be an average player and still have a ton of fun. New characters are created again and again as people restart their runs, and the world is full of people attempting the journey to level 60, beginner to expert. If you saw my first video, you know that I'm setting out to simply enjoy the adventure, rather than speed through the game at optimal performance. I'm no pro, but my first character made it to level 22. Above average, yeah. So if you're also just looking to play the game casually, allow me to share some lessons I've learned to help you enjoy your run through the hardcore landscape. Here are a casual's top 10 lessons learned from my first 20 levels in hardcore WoW. Actually, before we start, I have sort of a disclaimer lesson about the social experience of World of Warcraft that is especially true on these hardcore servers. And that lesson being, don't be bad on purpose if it will ruin someone else's game time. When I was thinking about starting this journey, I thought about doing a roleplay run where I would be dumb as my character by only doing what I learned from NPCs or other people in the game. However, now after experiencing hardcore for myself and seeing how quickly things can go wrong, oh my gosh, look at all those murlocs. I decided, wisely, that I didn't actually want to be that guy who got everyone killed because I failed to uphold the gameplay standards of the community. We'll talk about how seriously to take those standards later, but it is super important to courteously recognize that players on these servers are taking their game time seriously. I wouldn't want to be the person who ruins that for someone else. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, you know? Anyway, taking all this into consideration, here are some things I've learned that might help you enhance your own gameplay experience. Lesson number 1, don't be afraid to be afraid. You are going to die eventually. It's the nature of the game, so feel free to place yourself in dangerous positions. Seriously, test your limits. Oh boy. Some of my favorite moments so far have been those risky situations where I was about to be totally obliterated. Blood pumping, running in circles, clicking all over the screen like a madman. Good times. But also, you should definitely leave if you feel like it's not safe there. If you're afraid, back off. After all, you only get one life. Make the most of it by being careful. Levels 1 to 20 go pretty quickly, but all time spent is good time spent, especially if you're making friends along the way. Which is lesson number 2. All content is group content. Invite, please. Whoops, didn't mean to all caps, sorry. This is a super different take compared to the original hardcore community who declared that a run ought to be done strictly solo, duo, or trio, but the game wasn't designed to be played alone. So share the quests, share the buffs, go make some friends. People are actually super open to grouping up, and there's no harm in inviting someone along to join you on your adventure. Guild it up too. There are lots of guilds just chillin' and totally okay with you just chillin' too. Seriously, don't convince yourself that you must do it alone. You can certainly do so if you want, which will lead to some unique gameplay experiences in its own right, but don't feel like you must. Speaking of must-do things, let's talk about the stuff that a lot of players will say that you must do, starting with add-ons. Lesson number 3, add-ons help, but aren't necessary. Now, this is all my opinion, one that a lot of people don't share, but I think that the archaic UI and systems of the game are actually really enjoyable. A lot of us gamers, especially recently, have learned that newer doesn't equal better. Using the default UI in tandem with the game as intended nearly 20 years ago might lead you to a better immersion and a better gameplay experience overall. Reading the text actually makes the grind worth grinding because I now understand why I'm going to kill 30 of a specific mob or collecting those 8 seemingly random items. It feels good knowing that my orc warrior is helping defend the home from invading demons, or my dwarf paladin is providing a meal for a fleeing family. I'm stepping up to serve the greater good, not deleting mobs for experience points. You miss out on these feelings when you're flying through the game led by objectives only. Even combat itself has been surprisingly immersive without add-ons. For example, when you can't see a mob's cast bar, you actually have to watch animations to determine what spell the enemy is casting. Now, to be fair, I installed a cast bar, and being able to move my stuff around is really nice. Questy is super convenient and has made my experience better, but some of the other more elaborate add-ons are real game changers. pun intended, because by the time you get through installing all of the supposedly necessary plugins, the game is hardly recognizable. Plus, some of those built-in guides are so strict, I worry about missing out on experiencing the game for myself because I'd be way too focused on that big blue arrow. Now, this isn't to say that add-ons are incorrect or wrong. If your goal is to blast through the content as fast as possible, then more power to ya. But for us casuals who want a simple yet meaningfully difficult experience, efficiency doesn't always mean effectiveness. And that's actually my next point. Lesson number 4, efficient doesn't equal effective. Take your time doing things, even if it feels a little inefficient. If our main goal is avoiding death, it's better to safely exit the cave by plinking off one mob at a time, rather than trying to weasel your way up to a dangerously positioned one, and we're not gonna pull the 14, are we?
Oh, no, not yet.
I'm dead.
Don't run.
Sometimes it's important to remember during your run that all progress is progress, even slow progress. In my opinion, it's better to take the long stroll around the block, killing some mobs along the way, rather than failing at the skip. We have seen over and over again that the people trying to shave time for the sake of efficiency are the ones who end up paying for it big time. I'd rather lose 30 minutes running than 30 hours dying. On that note, let's talk about time. Lesson number 5. Time is your ally, not your enemy. Now this one is super counter-narrative, but I believe that you'll actually enjoy your run the slower it goes, not the faster. Sure, 60 might be the target level to hit, but you're not gonna get there for at least 5 whole /played days. According to my quick Google search, the average time to reach level 60 on a Classic Era server is about 240 hours. And that's considering the fact that these characters have the luxury of resurrecting. In my opinion, the average player ought to treat this race like the tortoise, not the hare. Now this might sound boring to some, maybe even intimidating to others. 240 hours, that's a ridiculous commitment, especially if you could lose it all in a split second. My response is yes. Yes, it is. But that commitment will truly mean something if you go into this with the proper perspective. Reaching a number might be your goal, but it should not be your motivation. A good experience should be your motivation. Speaking of experience, this game has one of the biggest and deepest small worlds you'll ever play in. And it really does feel like a world. It feels strangely alive, and most of the NPCs never even move. How's this possible? Well, when you make your character, you're forced to figure out the world on your own. You're the one who makes the investment, and it's all on your own time, with your own agency. The game does not railroad you into its systems, and you're welcome to go as fast or as slow as you'd like from the very first moment. When you log in for your next session, you get nothing. No hints, no pop-ups, no flash sales, no menus, no blinking necessity quests that lead you to the DLC purchase point. You just play. Other popular MMOs that I've played over the years and looked into recently all have deep and engaging narratives. But those games force you to go through unavoidable systems. It's always right in your face, from before you even make your first character to every single time you log in. WoW Classic isn't like that. You want to know what's going on in the world and how to navigate it? You can choose to experience it for yourself, ignore it, or Google it. It's all up to you. These investments, whether in-game or out-of-game, are both on my time under my agency, not the game's ridiculously inconvenient profit models. Sorry, this is a lessons video, not a essay on games. All of this being said, take the time to explore. Whether it's your first time or your 10th time, take time to look around and learn. What are those dwarves in Loch Modan actually digging for? Why can only Horde characters be shamans? Why are there orcs in Redridge again? Who started the riot in the stockades? What even is the Ragefire Chasm? All of these questions are answered by playing through the game, not a cringy cutscene or 20 minutes of mandatory dialogue boxes. The time does feel worth spending. And I haven't even mentioned professions yet, which are also tied heavily into you experiencing the full game. These skills are huge time investments, and they're not just jobs that give you stuff. They have implications on the main story of the game and your character's role within it. Waiting on your ore to finish smelting might feel like a waste of time, But for me, it's actually provided therapeutic moments to rest and relax safely in the city, knowing that I will put my investments to good use in the open world. Speaking of investing into things that help you in the open world, let's talk about gear, talents, and items. There is an inevitable truth to recognize in the conversation about gold and upgrades. Lesson number 6, gear and talents really do matter. Upgrading your main avenue of productivity is always worth investing in. In this case, it's most certainly going to mean your gear and your talents. However, being a little bit behind the curve, so to speak, isn't going to lock you out of content either. As you're gaining levels, stats and talents will make or break your ability to do certain things effectively, but only at the extreme ends of the difficult content. There's gonna be this odd pressure for you to min-max your stats and get the best in slot item for your level, for you to maximize class efficiency. But something that you've heard me say a lot is that all progress is progress. These early levels especially will simply be you playing the game, so now's the time to experiment if you want to. The difference that a piece of gear will actually make this early in your run as you go from good green item to slightly better green item is noticeable, but it won't keep you from making progress. Unless you're tracking every single damage rotation through those add-ons that we've talked about aren't super necessary, you'll be fine as long as you're looking to upgrade when you can in a way that will help you achieve the playstyle you're attempting to play. For example, you guys, we completed the Dead Mines, the first time I've ever healed ever. I have never once ever in an RPG game played the role of healer, and my first ever healer experience happened while going through the Alliance dungeon Dead Mines. I knew that I had some extra spirit on my gear, so I offered to play the role of healer. And even though I've never healed once before, we did just fine. I learned then that you can learn to do new things during your experience, so long as you're willing to invest in the stuff you need to invest into in order to do those things. Here's the catch. Do you remember those extreme ends of difficult content I mentioned before? Well, using that same gear, I tried to go do something that I watched this video of Pallytime do, and it did not go so well. He had all the same spells and talents that I did. However, I failed to heed his advice on how to gear specifically in order to do what he was doing. And my gear and weapon choice was insufficient, so the upgrades really do make the difference. Let's talk about investing in upgrades. Lesson number 7, don't keep your cash, invest it. There's this weird thing we do as humans where the less we have of something, the more likely we are to share it. The more we have of something, the more likely we are to defend it. This will most certainly be the case with your gold. When we know that we could lose something, there's a strange tendency for us to not use it at all because we feel like we might need it later. Let me give you permission to buy something off the auction house. Don't hoard your gold. Your mount at level 40 is very expensive, yes, but if you don't get there, then it won't matter. Spend your gold on things that will save your life. Buy those extra mats for extra target dummies and use your target dummies for goodness sake. Buy the mats for the new big bag if you need it. Get some shield spikes and sharpening stones if you got the cash. You spending gold now on an upgrade is better than losing it without upgrading. The struggle of upgrading is part of the game, so getting those upgrades feels fantastic. Do what you can do to make your character feel awesome to play. And that's something to keep in perspective here, is this whole journey is about gameplay and experience of the journey itself. This means that, lesson number 8, the role that you play really matters. The class that you pick is the gameplay. The unique approach to combat that each class brings to the table will change the way that you do everything. Your quest priority, the gear you look for, the professions you choose, all of it is affected most by your class. Plus, the roles of tank, healer, or damage make vastly different experiences that you'll have throughout the game's group content. Seriously, even in the melee DPS role, the early gameplay of a paladin versus a warrior is widely unique, far more than I expected. Then switching to hunter? Totally different experience. Class identity is way bigger of a deal in Classic than it is in almost any other game I've ever played. Now here's where we have to talk about those social gameplay standards that I mentioned at the beginning. Are there classes better at doing certain things more effectively than others? Yes, no dodging that. However, does this mean that you must be a frost mage in order to enjoy the game? No, I don't think so. Go do the thing that feels fun for you. Not efficient? Who cares if you are having fun? All progress is good progress. So use your time to do the thing you want to do. That's progress regardless. And this perspective does lead us to our most important lesson yet. Lesson number 9, don't compare yourself to the 1%. Some people have already made it to 60 on multiple characters, and some guilds are already clearing endgame content. Congrats to them, they beat WoW, I guess. But remember, these guys are the 1% elites, and we are not them. It can get really easy to feel like you're falling behind, but the truth is, in this game mode, and in life honestly, there's no such thing as behind. Unlike modern installments of the game, wherever you are in your process, it's possible to enjoy it. And this game mode nearly guarantees that someone else in the world is also at the same point that you are. Every once in a while, I'll run past a duo who is fully buffed up with like 6 different potions and glowing weapons and go, dang, those guys are hardcore. I'm not nearly as hardcore as them. Aw man, I'm missing out. How will I ever get hardcore? When in reality, the time difference it makes for us at this early of a level doesn't matter if I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm spending maybe an extra 5 to 10 minutes in the area. Okay, cool. See you later, dude. And you know what? Death can come as swiftly for them as it will for me. Potions or no potion, buffs or no buffs, every character only has one life, so you might as well enjoy it. Keeping that in mind, we come to our final and most important lesson. Lesson number 10, get attached to your character. In this game mode, for me at least, the run of the specific character is what matters most. You only get one experience per character, and your next run, especially if you pick a different class, is guaranteed to feel incredibly different. It's natural to think, no, don't do that. You're guaranteeing yourself for heartbreak, setting yourself up for sorrow when you see your dude laying dead. If you get overly attached and you lose everything, it's gone forever. You'll be left broken and ashamed. But perhaps that's not true. Perhaps the commitment that you make can be more meaningful and fulfilling when we understand that there is no getting it back once we lose it. We only get one life. It's too short not to make meaning of it. Your next level is never guaranteed. Why would you miserably waste away your life doing something that the crowds or the elites have told you that you must do when you have a life, a beautiful and valuable life, full of rich opportunity and possibility? Why wouldn't you attempt to do something that few would ever consider? Why would you allow yourself to simply go through meaningless motions, to haplessly slave away, diminished of creative expression, exploration, or adventure, all for the sake of reaching an arbitrary number or title? In this world, crafted meticulously for you to experience amazing things, why would you hurriedly blaze through it, reducing the journey to a formula without considering the choices you make as both an individual and a part of a grand community? My advice? Pay thankful attention to the journey you take. Look curiously at the monuments you pass, the literature you read and the craft that you study. Find pleasure in the achievements you make, but even more in the work it took to reach them. Take advantage of opportunities, not people. Consider greatly the care you give to those you meet. Remember their names, offer them aid. Celebrate moments, not metrics. Don't envy those who are in different circumstances than your own, but instead be grateful for the position in which you currently stand. If unfulfilled with that position, contemplate your next steps while recognizing prudently the lessons you've learned along the way. Dwell not on the pain of the past, nor the mysteries of the future, but instead notice attentively the gift of the present. Tell a story with the life you live. While it's true that you cannot control the environment in which you live or the actions that others take against you, you have full autonomy over the life that you choose to live. So how will you choose to live it? So there you have it. Whether you think we're still talking about WoW or not, the top 10 lessons I've learned from my first 20 levels in WoW Classic Hardcore. I greatly appreciate the time that you've given me to share them with you, and I hope that you've enjoyed hearing my perspectives. Let me know what you think. Do you think these are good lessons? Am I just coping with my strange emotional connection to this nearly 20-year-old game that I'm not good at? Maybe there are a lot of people curiously looking into this game for themselves and needing a casual's honest perspective shift to push them into trying it on their own. Anyways, I'll be continuing my journey, slowly but enjoyably, casually, and I would love to have you along for the process. Who knows, perhaps my perspective will greatly change once I actually make it into the later levels. Consider a like, a subscribe, and a share to help me make more content like this. Tune into my live streams on Mondays or Thursdays, or catch me in another video after you subscribe. Thanks so much. See you soon.